Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gauri. I am here today to talk about the Kham River Restoration Mission in my hometown of Aurangabad, Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar, as it is called now. Like most other rivers, it was once the lifeline along which a settlement and then a city evolved. And like most of our rivers today, it is a conduit for sewage and garbage, really just neglected by the city. 62% of the respondents in a survey think that carrying sewage is a legitimate function of a river, and just how the word nala, which was the word for a seasonal river, has changed to mean gutter for sewage today, is a reflection of the cultural disconnect that we are experiencing with our cities. And how do you even begin to solve for any of this? Over the last 4 years, what the Kham has taught us is that you start by embracing complexity. A healthy river supports a very complex and interconnected ecosystem. An unhealthy river is an outcome of complex and interconnected challenges. And fixing those challenges takes complex and interconnected partnerships. What started as a four-party MOU between the local government, a multinational company that has Aurangabad as its home ground, an organization based in Aurangabad, and the Cantonment Board. So a very local partnership has today evolved with the Zilla Parishad, the District Collector's Office, the Forest Department, the Irrigation Department, the National Institute of Urban Affairs, WRI, everyone coming together to really look at this river and the long-term maintenance and stewardship that I was just talking about. In all of this complexity, we have a very basic BOTRAM process that we've been trying to follow that allows us to break down this complexity into workable parts that clarify the role of each partner, that provide a chronology for the actions that need to be taken. So for example, in the case of solid waste management, it brings together municipal staff, it brings together residents, corporators, to start looking at each individual garbage vulnerable point, each point at which garbage is coming out on the streets or into the river or being burned in the open. It tries to fix the routes of the collection vehicles so residents can have predictable collection services. It tries to get the segregation going so that materials, instead of just being collected and dumped somewhere else, can be recovered. So once you start solving for solid waste management, you also start solving for urban greening. You also start solving for that community connect, providing spaces where communities can actually gather. It also solves for livelihoods. This is Renuka, who used to be a waste picker, who would pick from those very points where garbage would come out onto the open, out of mixed waste, which could have glass, it could have blades, it would have pigs and dogs and cattle around. And through a more systemic approach, we're able to bring her into a material recovery facility where dry waste collected from the doorstep of every household can be brought to her and 90 other Safai Sathis like her, where they get access to it. And now we're also working on expanding their role in waste management to provide collection services for bulk waste generators and the rural areas outside Aurangabad that don't have any collection infrastructure. After all the routes have been mapped, people have been onboarded, we'll still have some amount of waste coming into the river, which is where the plastic trapping comes in. That allows you to uncover newer challenges. So when we begin to see that textiles is one of the biggest component coming into our rivers, that leads us to onboard the right partners to set up a textile recovery facility, train, again, generate livelihoods in the training of the sorting for the textiles and what products can come out of those textiles. Similarly, when you look at riparian buffers, developing the river banks and the areas along the river, you take each individual section and you look at how biodiversity and ecological health can be introduced back into that section. And then you have spaces that were once like this that can begin to look like that. So you see those two open sewer lines that are coming into the river, creating a marshland. And although this looks very green, most of this is the Mexican juliflora, the Yedi babu, as we call in Marathi. It's an invasive species, does not support any biodiversity, and it essentially takes up an entire ecoscape. When we solve for that sewage, when we divert that sewage into the underground network, we reclaim land. We're able to, again, generate spaces, and those two freshwater ponds that you see, right? The question right in the beginning was, is this even a river anymore? Is there fresh water here, or is it just sewage? And as the work has progressed, we've uncovered 16 freshwater springs that were buried under debris and garbage and can now look like this, right? Inviting people to connect back with the river. So solving for sewage begins to solve for green spaces, begins to solve for that lost community connect, right? Which, to my mind, is the basis for all of the degradation in the first place, the fact that we don't recognize the rivers in our cities. So these are the kinds of activities we're now able to host on the river bank. We're able to bring the community back. We're able to say that, look, this is your responsibility, this is our responsibility. All of us need to be here, use this space, and use it responsibly. Beyond that, once you start looking at riparian areas, the obvious question that came up was, what is the boundary of the river? And for the longest time, that has not been clear. So to get the irrigation department on board to mark the red line and blue line and have that then be integrated into the development plan of the city, for the first time in 2024, to have the river formally recognized in the development plan, beginning with that small one garbage vulnerable point that that community decided they wanted to do something about, and the impact it can have on that ward, on that region, on that zone, and then on the city has just been tremendous to see. And we're now looking at the district. The problems that the city is facing are also problems that the rural areas downstream, the industrial areas downstream are facing. There's a very exciting Jayakwadi bird sanctuary where the Kham River eventually meets the Godavari, and developing that into a place of ecotourism and nature education is one of the exciting prospects coming up. Agriculture is going to be an added sector of complexity as we go into the rural areas that we're seeking active partnerships for. So this is kind of the scale that we're looking for in the next 7 years. It's river restoration. We do not believe it's going to be a project that we say, okay, complete, done now, let's move on. It's going to be an ongoing process with 10 years where we begin to see life coming back into the river. We're also trying to document the process and standardize it, the boat ramp process, in a way that other cities and other organizations in other cities can begin to use it, so that while we focus on the Kham River, the learnings and the insights and the processes can travel beyond us. Like I said, it's a very long journey. We're nowhere close to the end. There are still places in the city that look like this. But I hope that the last bit of the visual will, really inspire hope that we can bring ecology, biodiversity, and community and culture back to our rivers.